Hello. Good morning to some of you. Good afternoon to others. I am absolutely thrilled to be here with you today and to talk more about team sports. No, that's all right. Today we are talking about building resilient teams and why performance, in our opinion, is a team sport. So I am Shauna Simchek. I am the Senior Vice President of Leadership Development here at Keystone Partners. I spend my days not only overseeing the quality of engagements delivered at Keystone Partners, making sure that everything is delivered with the highest level of excellence, but I also spend a considerable amount of time diving into the research specific to leadership development and human capital space. So I'm very excited to be here with all of you today, and welcome to those that have just joined us. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Keystone Partners, we are trusted partners with our customers. We help our customers achieve organizational excellence by aligning their talent and business strategies. We do this through providing targeted investments, so specifically looking at things such as leadership development programs, career transition or outplacement, executive coaching programs, and certifying executive coaches, and our newest line of service, which is search. Now, if you've been on other Keystone Partners webinars, or if you're new to Keystone Partners, I love interaction. I don't necessarily want to sit here and simply talk to you for the next 45, 50 minutes. I want to hear from you, but it can be difficult when we have over 200 people on the webinar. So we love to use Mentimeter to help you stay engaged. So grab your phone. Usually, typically in a webinar, I tell you to put your phone away, but pick up that phone again, grab your phone, use your camera feature if you can, and scan the QR code. Once you reach the landing page, give me a thumbs up or a heart that you've joined the webinar today. If you're not used to the camera feature, it's not working well for you, we also have the web address that you can go to. Oh, good, it's working. www.menti.com. Plug in that code to join our presentation today, and give us a heart or a thumbs up. Let me know that you're here. Perfect. I love that it's coming in. We have a lot of people joining us, so I'm going to take a moment, let you join. Thank you. So when you're engaging with us today on the conversation, Zoom always has the chat feature. Thank you, Angelica. Thank you, Megan. But we also want to see your interactions, and we want all the participants to see your interactions on Mentimeter. Thank you so much. Megan is my co-producer today. She did drop the code in the chat as well. So as we go along, if you ever get disconnected, you could look there. As we continue to get you all set up, I see a lot of names and I see that participation list going way up. So I'm going to give you a second. I wanted to let you know that you will receive a copy of this recording after today's session. You will also receive a copy of my slides. That question always comes up. So no need to be taking screenshots frantically. And you will also receive the full research report after today's session. And I'll allude to the research report a lot today, so you'll be sure to want to download that after today's session. Great. I continue to say this, so I'm just going to repeat myself one more time. We at Keystone Partners love interaction. We use Mentimeter to create the interaction. So if you've just joined us, pick up your phone, grab that camera feature, and scan that QR code to join us. When you get onto the main page, give us a thumbs up, a heart. I love it that you're here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Kenya. I appreciate that. All right, we're going to keep going. Megan, if you see anybody join us, please drop them that code. Make sure that they're joining us so that they can stay active with us. Oh, here we go. So I always love to make sure that Mentimeter is working well, that we're all engaged in the same fashion. So a little fun engagement here. This is my new favorite question. What's your virtual workspace mood right now as you joined this morning or this afternoon? Maybe you left and you're a little bit hungry. It's lunchtime. It's already noon where you're at. Maybe it's past noon where you're at. Overwhelmed, frustrated. I hope not a lot of people noticed that one. Happy, ready to learn, and more coffee, please. You'll notice on Menti, you can actually answer more. So more coffee, please. And I'm really excited to learn and be here with you. Thank you so much. Looks like it's working really well. Again, I see participant name coming in. So if you're coming in late, we use Mentimeter. In the webinar chat, you will find how to access the Mentimeter so that you can join in on the conversation. All right, so this one's just a fun one. So let's really dive in and start talking more about why we're here today, the topic that engaged you to get signed up. So about a year ago, we at Keystone Partners began our journey on research specific to resilience. we wanted to really understand in this uncontrollable world, what can we control? How can we make an impact? And last year, research was in 23, we presented a lot of it in 24. We proved that, in fact, if you invest in building resilience in your employees, you can have an impact on the organization. Specifically, certain outcomes such as higher performance, higher retention, better culture, and so forth. This year, we dove, or at the end of 24, we dove even further into the research of resilience. And I have the pleasure of sharing all of those results with you today. Now, I will spend majority of the time unpacking the research. There was a ton of it, unpacking that research and what it actually means in today's world. And then I'm going to sprinkle in, like a little salt shaker, I'll sprinkle in some strategies for you to take back into your workplace as you begin to shape your 2025 talent strategies. So let's go ahead and get started today. Again, I see that participation list, so I'll say it one more time. If you've just joined us, we will be using Menti as an engagement tool. Megan, my amazing producer, has just dropped the conversation code into there so you can join the conversation. So thank you, Megan. I appreciate you doing that. Have you ever really wondered what truly sets a top performing organization apart? And yes, sure, things that come to my mind immediately: skills, strategy, execution, innovation, perhaps. They're absolutely key. But another piece of this puzzle that is often overlooked is, in fact, resilience. Now, we believe that resilience isn't just a buzzword at Keystone Partners. It is a critical factor that fuels sustainable performance, even in some of the most challenging environments. And I hope we can all agree, today's world is a bit challenging. So before I give you my answer, let's go to that Mentimeter really quick. I want to know from you, what is your definition of resilience? How do you define resilience? Should be an open-ended response on Menti that you can type in your answer and give us your best definition of resilience. Thank you. I love to see the participation. Here they come flying in. Thank you, thank you. Ooh, good word, grit. Grit in the face of adversity. Facing challenges, ability to overcome obstacles, agility, agility, agility. Love that word. Being able to quickly bounce back, work through change. Don't take it personal. I like that one a lot. I see this one a lot. Ability to overcome. The word's overcome and bounce back. This one, oh, somebody must have taken my other courses. Stay the course amidst our VUCA environment. We love the word VUCA at Keystone Partners. Perseverance, yes, perseverance. Mental grit, love the word grit. Bounce back, overcome obstacles with optimism. Thank you for that one, that's a great one. Again, I see that number going up, so I'm gonna say it one more time. Those of you who've been on are gonna hear it. We are using Mentimeter today to create engagement, so please jump over to the chat, grab that code so that you can join in on our conversation. Thank you for all of your contributions. I really appreciate it. Our definition is much like yours. It is quite simple, right? It's really quite simple. It's the capacity to absorb change and continue to do your best work. Now I'll repeat that for a second. The capacity to absorb change and then continue to do our very best work. It's the ability to adapt to challenges, overcome, as many of you said, recover from setbacks more quickly, thrive in the face of adversity. It's this combination of mental toughness combined with emotional regulation and the ability to maintain focus and productivity under stress. Now, give me a thumbs up or a heart if you can kind of relate to these descriptors, right? Productive under stress, mental toughness, mental grit. I love the words that you all used. Now, I have to tell you, I have an 8-year-old. My son loves baseball. He's on a baseball team. And as a psychologist, I really enjoy watching the team and the range of resilience, of emotions, of regulation that exists on this team, right? The mental toughness that some of them demonstrate when they strike out, or some of the emotions that get raised, helmets get thrown, bats get thrown, tears come down, they're 8. Tears come down as they make a mistake and they forget to tag at second, or they overthrow the ball, which happens quite frequently. How quickly they can overcome, how quickly they can recover. Where does the mind go after a really tough play? That's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about resilience. How resilient are these 8-year-olds to trying to get to be productive under stress, that championship game that we've been talking about? So perhaps, I hope, for me, it creates a visual, because I can see myself, my son, sitting at the game. I can see how he overcomes those challenges and the times when he makes mistakes. But now let's take you into the workplace for a second. Can you see the same, 8-year-old boy? Can you see that same person recovering quickly from mistakes? Oh, messed that one up. How quickly do they recover? Are they able to regulate their emotions when they are faced with a big or a small challenge in front of them? And are they productive under stress? For me, I can immediately see it. I can see somebody in my organization at Keystone Partners who recovers quick, who moves and is productive. I can also see others who have a difficult time regulating emotions and can't take challenges on really well. Hopefully you can start to feel resilience and have a mental picture of what that means. So in today's very ever-changing complex landscape, and I love that somebody already used this word, the VUCA world that we're living in, this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, it may seem like common sense to organizations to consciously, proactively cultivate or develop resilience, right? The example I just gave about how to overcome challenges, we should develop that. Let me add really quickly too, that resilience is not an innate characteristic. It's not one of those that are you born with it or not. It in fact can be developed. And we've spent the last year or so in developing resilience in leaders. And we have seen this and proved it to be true. We can develop resilience. So we should help our employees adapt to those challenges, right? In the workplace, we should help them learn how to regulate their emotions better. We should support the ability to maintain focus when stressors are coming at us and maintain productivity under stress. Now, unfortunately, or sadly, I should say, is too few organizations are taking this path. Instead, many organizations, without even realizing that they're doing it, often are creating workplaces where employees feel overwhelmed, they feel vulnerable, they're unable to overcome some of these challenges, and they're incapable of affecting change in their organization. I will not ask you to point out or give me a thumbs up if you feel like you're working in this organization, but I understand that probably majority of you, based on the research, are feeling this in your organization. And that's not the worst part, in my opinion, because all of these symptoms that I have just talked about, what I'm describing, lead to the sickness of what we're calling burnout. And I know that is not a new word for you if you are sitting in human resources. Burnout. Burnout can leave an employee feeling really drained, unable to cope. They might even be really cynical towards their job, their boss, their coworkers. They often suffer from lower self-esteem and, frankly, declining professional competence or achievement. They don't feel like they can get it done. They don't feel success anymore. And they're starting to doubt their ability to even be successful. Now, burnout has been a huge topic recently in a lot of studies. So I'm not teaching you something new today, but they are estimating, and I found this really interesting, that burnout is costing US employees particularly anywhere from $125 billion to $190 billion in annual healthcare expenses alone. This is the employee that suffers a heart attack because they're too stressed, overworked, and overwhelmed. This is the employee that falls ill due to the fact that they're not taking care of themselves too much. They're working too much. They're no longer working out or eating well. They're sitting too much. They're working far too much. They're low resilience. They're unable to overcome some of those challenges that frankly any organization today now faces. So all of these statistics shout to me very clearly that resilience is no longer optional, right? Resilience, or the building of resilience, is absolutely essential, especially when burnout is at an all-time high. And we as learning development professionals, we have the way to prevent this sickness, this ailment that is absolutely prevalent in today's organizations. So why should resilience be a primary objective for you today? Well, I alluded to this earlier. In 2023 and 2024, we sought to look at resilience and its impact on organizations. And in fact, our research uncovered that resilience should be a primary target of strategic investments, specifically in programs such as professional development, because resilient employees equate to resilient organizations. So if our organizations are living in this VUCA world, should we not care about more resilient employees to overcome those challenges, to overcome the volatility and the uncertainty that frankly we just live in? Because we know that resilience is not an innate characteristic, it can truly be developed. If you spend your money investing in employees at defining moments at specific portions or points within their employee life cycle, you in fact will see a better return on your investment, and you'll build the most essential skill in organizations today. So this is all of our research that we did in 2023. And Megan, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Would you drop, since I've been talking a lot about it, would you go and drop the previous research report? And we also did a webinar about a month ago on this topic. And I think our attendees might enjoy downloading that and looking that over. Thank you, Megan. So you can dive further into that. But you might be thinking to yourself, okay, Shada, move on. Why are we spending so much time on last year's research? Well, I'm rehashing the old research to tell you why we kept talking about this in 2025, or why we dove deeper here. So in 24 and into 25, we wanted to continue this research on resilience, but we wanted to start to look at correlations between resilience, performance, and burnout being one of the most prevalent issues in our organizations today. And so we spoke to a variety of human resource professionals, executives, business professionals across a variety of industries, different sizes of organizations, and we put out a few hypotheses into the organization, right? Specifically, we wanted to explore, is there a relationship between low resilience? Is this greater or less than for high-performing high-performing employees? Do higher performing employees demonstrate higher levels of resilience? Maybe, I might guess that. Are there differences between team investments versus individual investments? And these are the two premises of our research that we wanted to dive in. So really quick, before I unveil our findings, I'm curious what your predictions are. Hopefully you've had your coffee already. But tell me, what do you think, what are your predictions? When you think about resilience, performance of an employee, and burnout, how do these relate? Do you think high-performing employees demonstrate higher levels of resilience? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Now, I'm making you think pretty hard this morning, aren't I? Somebody think you're giving me the thumbs up like, I don't know, but that's a good, that's a good question. What about the differences between team investments versus individual investments? Yeah, not necessarily, okay. So not necessarily probably differences between high performing or levels of resilience. High performers would be more resilient, love it. I was thinking the same thing. Any other predictions? Where's my scientist today? Higher performing individuals have higher capacity to be resilient. Oh, I like the way that you've said that differently. Hypos more resilient. Yes, absolutely great. Thank you for agreeing with me. High performing individuals and teams are likely to be more resilient. High performance, proper support. Resilience comes with hypo. So if I'm a hypo, I automatically am more resilient. Fantastic. Thank you for putting yourself on the ledge out there and putting some of your predictions or your hypotheses out there. Hypos are definitely more resilient. High performers likely have a broader network of support and are intentional about seeking it when needed. That's an excellent comment. Thank you. That's really great. Yeah, fantastic. And I see some of you in the chat. Thank you. If you haven't joined Mentimeter, you absolutely can jump in and comment here. But thank you for those that went out on the limb there and put their predictions or their hypotheses into our hands. I greatly appreciate that. All right, so I won't hold the suspense anymore. Our research uncovered two big findings. What we're calling the burnout zone or the resilience gap. And the second being that resilience is a team sport. Now, I hope you would have guessed that team equals higher levels of resilience because it's in the title. But thank you so much for those that put in their contributions. So these are the two key findings. I'm going to unpack both of these together. And again, as we go through, I'm going to sprinkle in some ideas on how you can bring this into your organization. So the first and the most impactful, well, let me back up for a second. We need to do some definitions, excuse me. I want to talk to you about what we're calling the burnout zone, also known as resilience gap. So let me define some of our terms. The first, very simple, is PI, or performance index. Probably familiar to you at least. This is output, productivity. It reflects the individual's ability to meet and exceed performance. These are your hypos, right? This is a word that we should be somewhat familiar with. The second measure, though, might not be as familiar to you. So this is the resilience index, the RI. It's the capacity to recover from stress, adapt to challenges, and maintain well-being over time. This is the resilience, right? This is what we've been talking about the entire time. How resilient are you as an individual? And we can measure that on a scale. So the resilience gap is this discrepancy between an employee's score on performance, PI, and a resilience measure, the RI, okay? That's what we're calling the resilience gap. So we have our definitions, and our research states that the average PI score among all of our respondents was 31, and our average RI, resilience index score, was significantly lower at 19, pardon me. This is the resilience gap that we're defining. But what hasn't been explored before is that, is there a link between high performers and their levels of resilience? A lot of you were commenting on that. Perhaps we think high performance automatically equals higher resilience. But I would guess, could a common cause of burnout, or I would hypothesize, if you will, could a common cause of burnout simply be a low resilience score? And in fact, we did find this to be true. So I argue that resilience is a key driver of burnout that is often overlooked in a lot of our high performers. So let's dive into that a little further. Let me unpack that just a little bit more. So you stay with me, if you will. This is a graph of our data, right? And so if you're looking at it, on the left axis of the y-axis is the resilience score, x-axis being the bottom axis is performance. So the scores in the upper right quadrant, right, are your high performers, those with high resilience. They score high performer, high resilience. The bottom left quadrant, low performance, low resilience. Okay, so I'm going to come back to you on this one. So go to your Mentimeter, if you will. Which population, move I think it's like a little dot. Move your dot. Who are you most concerned about? If you are going to invest any dollars to support in the development of resilience, where are you going to invest? Okay, we've got one on the map for the upper right quadrant. Got a couple on the bottom right. And it's a little map thing that you just target. Yep, right there. That's great. Thank you. Keep them coming. Again, we have many, many people on the call, so I know that you can jump on there and you can put your dot on this map. And thank you for all of the comments coming in too. I really appreciate that. I'll see if there's any questions. Jen, I love your comment. I absolutely love your comment. This is the curse of competence. High performers often get indexed for the most challenging tasks, the highest volume of production, but we use up all that resilience. Yeah, I added the resilience. Perfect. Oh, somebody's putting their dot on the line. That's not fair. Where are you putting your line? I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Keep them coming in. We've got many, many more people on the call. Do you want to take a chance to put your dot on the graph? I'll give you just a few more seconds. Perfect. All right, keep them coming in. I would say it's about 50-50 for me. Oh, dots are falling a bit lower. Thank you, Brian, for letting me know. So you probably put it above the line. It's falling on the line. That's all right. We get the point, right? The ones that I'm most concerned about are the bottom right. The ones in the quadrant in the bottom. They're the high performers with low resilience. Why? Because they're productive today. Their long-term sustainability, though, is significantly at risk. They can't take it, right? They're high performers, so they typically have probably higher levels of self-esteem. They're used to being successful. They've been promoted as successful or recognized as successful as high potentials, high performers. And yet, as Jen so clearly put, which I so appreciate, is we overload them. And then all of a sudden, if they don't have a good level of resilience, if they don't have good RI, we run the risk of losing them. However, we can intervene with targeted interventions like coaching or professional development to bolster that resilience. And I see there's a hand up, and it's a little bit difficult for me to go into the chat area to find that. So if you have a question, please jump into that chat and drop it there. I think, Meg, you have your hand up. And I will go on over and try to address that as well. So thank you very much. Catherine, how do you place the dots? Well, good question, but we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next slide here. This is what we're talking about right here. This zone, if you will. And what we're talking about this is we've defined this as the burnout zone, right? This is the burnout zone. This is the one that we are most concerned about. But the great news about this research, so combining last year's research and this year's research, is saying it's okay. It's absolutely okay because we can do something about it. We can invest, we can develop resilience, and we can support our high-performing employees to avoid that burnout zone. We can move them from this box up into here. Now, I loved the fact that a lot of your dots fell up here as well, because I think what that says to me is that we also want to invest in the strengths. We don't want them to become, so overwhelmed that they fall into the burnout zone. So when you're thinking about investment, it's here, right? We want to capitalize on strengths. We want to continue to invest in these high-performing, high-resilient employees. We also want them to champion others in our organization that may suffer or may have lower resilience. Can they coach others? Can they mentor others to be more resilient? And we really want to use this area to target our development. So we're making a big impact in our organization, and we're not risking the loss of those high performers. Okay. All right. So as we continue to explore this idea of the burnout zone and we start talking more about that resilience gap, our research reported that employees in that burnout zone, high performance, low resilient, are more likely to be looking for a job. And in fact, 50% compared to those with high resilience, 10% are looking for a job. Now, this statistic for me is not surprising. It's not surprising at all. If you yourself have ever experienced burnout, you slowly find yourself going over to the job boards. You slowly find yourself taking calls from recruiters, or you're so bold to even just pack up and say, I'm out, and leave. And what else is out there? So this statistic for me was not that surprising. That those with high performers with low resilience are looking for jobs. This one though was, So what are we actually going to do about it? Here's my sprinkle of what you can actually do about it. So we as organizations, we absolutely must focus on reducing that resilience gap if we want to impact that burnout zone. We need to move them from the bottom quadrant up to the high quadrant. And we can do this a couple different ways. We can do this by fostering resilience through things such as coaching, as well as wellness programs, professional development programs, and workload management. Looking at the responsibilities of your teammates and saying, am I overloading my high performers because they simply are high performers? We also create environments where psychological and emotional well-being are a big portion of our workplace culture. And this starts with key leaders, looking at how are we taking care of our employees. This isn't just an HR initiative, or it should not be just an HR initiative. This should be a key characteristic of your leadership. Okay, so as we continue down the path of the research, we as organizations, right, we're trying to reduce this resilience gap. We're impacting that burnout zone as much as possible. And what our research found that I think is radically interesting is what we're calling the compound earnings effect, right? Compound earnings, goodness gracious, is that you are regularly investing a relatively small amount over time into an account, and it offers the miracle of compounding interest. Well, the same is true for development. Our research said if you invest in the 3 most common development areas of employer-funded training, and that's a key there, employer-funded training, and those 3 areas are skill development, leadership training, and coaching, you will also see the benefits of compounded earnings. If you invest in only one area, skill development, your resilience index score in our research showed around a 19.5%. If you invest in 3 areas, you reach almost a 30% increase in resilience, a 30% resilience index score. So the numbers here show that each additional layer of investment significantly improves our average performance and, more importantly, significant improvement in resilience among those high performers. Now, the whole point here is that the cumulative value of comprehensive development strategies is pretty clear, right? Don't just do one, you got to do a few to make sure that you're bringing the greatest value and increasing those resilience scores. Plain and simple. Oh, goodness gracious, sorry about that. Now, That was interesting. And as we continue, again, asking more and more questions, our research found that even when only one team member receives employer-invested in development, employer-funded development, the team reports an impressive 60% higher overall resilience score. What does that tell me? That tells me that, let me back up, a 60% higher resilience score than teams with no employer investment. So we've got a pool of no investment, and then we've got a pool of only one leader getting an investment within that pool. And we see a 60% higher level of resilience among that team than we do over the individuals without development. This ripple effect of resilience highlights a few things for me. One is that team-based investments in employee development have a high ROI strategy. But what it more greatly says to me is that one individual's growth fuels broader resilience and performance across the team, which again can impact the entire organization. For me, it dispels this myth that employees, regardless of generation, can only care about their own selves or their own development. And on the contrary, our research revealed that there's really two important facts that came out of this, of the world of work today. One, people want to work along really smart people, and they want to be sure that the people around them are well taken care of. So minimally, right, I don't want you necessarily to walk out with just this data point, but minimally, if you invest in one person in a team, you're going to start to impact the entire team by significant numbers, right? Approximately 60%. Which brings us to what I consider the sort of the final research finding of resilience is in fact a team sport. Can we impact a team more greatly, or can our investments impact team more than just an individual? Excuse me. Okay, so I've been talking quite a bit for quite some time. So let me recap for just a minute. We can make an impact and we can retain our high performers. We have to first identify the high performers with low resilience, and then we need to invest in them with employer-funded development. This helps us close that gap, the resilience gap, and avoid the burnout zone. We want to move people from one quadrant to the other quadrant. By providing this type of development, we know we can also increase retention. They're not going to be looking for jobs anymore, 50% to 10%. And in fact, our research shows that you have an 80% higher retention than not providing these development opportunities at all. So you've got a significant retention issue if we're not providing development opportunities. We've got an even bigger issue if we're not providing development opportunities to that specific quadrant. And if you really want to create the cumulative results and you want to increase the resilience in your employees, you got to look at it holistically. You have to look at 3 different types of development, that compounding interest effect, skill development, leadership training, and coaching, and immediately your resilience scores go out. So could you imagine, could you imagine if you expanded these investments across a team and not just a single employee? Well, the answer is pretty clear and simple in my opinion. Team investments benefit not just the individual, but the entire team, frankly. It creates that ripple effect that we're looking for effects of higher levels of resilience and performance throughout your organization. In fact, employees who benefit from team-based investments, so when I say team-based investments, I'm thinking team development, team coaching, had an incredible, again, 60% higher resilience than, a higher resilience score and higher performance scores than employees who received individual programs, right? So before we were comparing no to individual, and now we're comparing individual to team, and we're starting to see this gradual, well, frankly, not even a gradual, a dramatic increase in our resilience scores that go way up as we start to invest in our employees in different ways. All right, give me a thumbs up if I'm still making sense to you, or heart if you agree with what I'm saying. Thank you, I love it. Yeah, that's wonderful, Catherine. Thank you. This data supports that one person can make an impact on a larger system, and a team can make an even greater impact in the organization. Okay. So I tend to be, let's be a little cautious. I like to look at research and be a little cautious. I'm a skeptic sometimes, because it's still important. It's not just about dropping professional development or having holistic development programs in your organization. It really is also about creating impactful learning. And in fact, our research shows that quality matters over quantity. Last year's study, I spoke a lot about Keystone's research of investing in those defining moments in someone's career. versus taking your development and spreading it around like peanut butter, right? The quality of the learning experience matters more than the volume. And what's interesting is this year's research, we saw the exact same results. So don't take those very, very precious training and development dollars and spread it across all employees at all levels. Instead, use those minimal training and development dollars and use them wisely. In fact, we suggest that you think and invest in teams, focus on closing that resilience gap with your high-performing population, and develop quality, not quantity, quality professional development opportunities that focus on more than one area. Our research pulled out these 3 characteristics, and that's why they're on the slide here, is participants said that programs must be engaging, relevant, and enjoyable. Those were the 3 words that they used. So when employees reported positive perceptions of a learning event or a learning experience, their resilience scores more than doubled. That is over those that reported a negative perception of the learning experience. So yeah, all this said is you have the best intentions. You're going to go ahead and put in, this professional development activities for your teams and your individuals within your organization, but the quality is lacking. If the quality is lacking, we're turning back down that dial of resilience. We want that quality to be high quality, engaging, relevant, and enjoyable. And again, we see the dial on the resilience start to go way up, way up. All right. So we're rounding, as my son says, we're rounding third base, right? And we're talking about, oh goodness, having some technical difficulties. Give me 1 second. Oh, all right, we're back. Nope. Oh my goodness gracious. All right, here we go. We're rounding third together towards the end of it. And I hope that I've given you a few ideas on how to apply our research on resilience, performance, and teams. Here is just a really recap of our 4 actionable strategies that you can walk away with. The first being that, again, we've identified those high performers in our organization who are sitting in that burnout zone, and we're going to take action. Don't forget about the others in the upper right quadrant, but we're going to take action specifically on those high performers. These individuals who are already looking for a job, let's help them not look for the job, and let's help them stay engaged and retain them in our organization. We're going to close that gap with professional development opportunities. And we know we can do that to compound our interests by building holistic development programs. The research is also clear that if you invest in only one person minimally, you will impact that resilience on your teams. But if you really want to make an impact in your organization, resilience is a team sport. An astonishing 60% more resilience in your organization if you invest in the team. And next, we have to foster a culture of leadership. We've got to build resilience in our key leaders within the organization, because leaders who exemplify resilience, they encourage and they elicit the same traits in their teammates. They typically promote well-being alongside other performance metrics, and they see resilience as a core trait or a core pillar of their talent strategy. And finally, analytics are radically important in our field of talent management. Analytics are really important, so we have to track and measure. You can do this through short surveys, you can use pulse check-ins, but you've got to track resilience right alongside of your performance metrics. Regularly evaluate and evolve your development programs. Remember, quality is going to be key. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And so I recommend that you look at and really examine. If you have a development program that you've been running or doing for the same time, the same way for the last several years, take a moment. It might be the time to explore something different to make sure that it's the highest quality, that you're getting the greatest resilient metrics out of that investment in professional development. So the bottom line today is that resilience, in my opinion, after 2 years of research, is no longer optional. We have proven this for the 2nd year in a row. We must proactively provide targeted development and coaching to mitigate the burnout in our organization and continue to retain our high-performing employees. We can't just continue to load them up. It absolutely, in my opinion, can be your competitive advantage. Why? Because we have proven that the impact to your organization is absolutely real. It will fall to the bottom line. If you invest and you make resilience a key strategic initiative in your organization, you'll have greater levels of retention, greater levels of engagement, better organizational health, and optimism about your future. So thank you so much. I went through our research report at rapid fire, but I cannot thank you enough for your participation today. If you are starting to look at resilience within your organization, or you're starting to think about ways in which to invest in your teams and your individuals, we at Keystone Partners would be delighted to be your partner in that adventure. I will stick around for just a few. We have some questions coming in, so I want to be sure that I get to all of those questions. So let me hop over here really quick and answer a few of those questions. I hope that the rest of you can stay on. Let's see, have you correlated an increase in resilience to financial performance? Yes, there is, I think, 2 or 3 pages within the research report, Shelley, that you can see that directly link to financial performance as well. Thank you very much for that question. Oh, how do you place the screens? That was somebody having a difficulty with our system. Let me jump. Thank you for the comments. High performance employees have better coping mechanisms and set themselves up for success. Not necessarily, Erin. Rich, I think that was your prediction as I'm scrolling back. So we did prove out that high performing employees not necessarily does that equate to higher levels of resilience. So we can take those high performing employees, we can develop we can develop resilience and increase them and keep them more engaged so they're not looking for jobs. Thank you for that question. I see another question coming in. Burnout is a huge issue. Angelica, I absolutely agree. Some companies are completely apathetic. They expect employees to suck it up and keep going. Yeah, I'm guessing that comment might come from experience. And that's the sad reality, right, that I was talking about at the very beginning. They see signs of burnout as a weakness, yeah. And instead, we can flip that around and say that actually is a sign of low resilience. And we can do something about it, right? We can cure the symptom or cure the disease when we start to see some of those symptoms of burnout. How do you create awareness about how important this is? Some of our research. Use our research, Angelica, to your advantage and demonstrate to those around you that we actually can have an impact. It's not simply about sucking it up. It's about building a skill, a development opportunity, and we can increase that level because I can tell you right now, the uncontrollable, the volatility, the uncertain environment that we live in, it's not going anywhere. We can't control that. Let me see. Oh, I've got several more questions coming in. Let me see if I can move myself down there. Carla, do you know of any assessments help employees understand their own levels of resilience? Keystone Partners has developed a proprietary resilience index that we do use in our professional development activities. So we do measure pre and post levels of resilience within your organization. So that is something that we could help you with. I've got a lot of questions coming in. This is great. Thank you. Has team-based group coaching been part of the work or research to determine its impact on team performance? Yes. That was my one slide. We go back a little bit is you can volume up, you can amplify your levels of resilience in your organization if in fact you invest at the team level, team-based interventions, if you will. And that absolutely includes things like team development, group coaching, or even leadership development programs that are surrounding the team. Thank you for that great question. Have you seen any unexpected or creative approaches companies have used to foster resilience? Well, our research, I'm not sure who asked that question, I can't tell, but thank you for that question. Our research centered around professional development activities, wellness programs, workload management, if you remember that one slide. So we suggest, based on the research and those startling data points, such as 60%, I would focus on investment of development of individuals and teams that foster resilience and increase your resilience with it, or up-level the level of resilience within your employees. Excuse me. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for these great questions. I'll take one more and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. Is offering quality programs alone, or is it what is learned in the programs that drives resilience? There we go. I encourage you, I don't know who wrote that one either, but I strongly encourage you to read or listen to the previous webinar. We talked a lot about not necessarily the skills to develop, it depends on where you're at in an organization, but we talked a lot about taking your target strategic investments or professional development activities at key moments in somebody's employee cycle. And so depending on where that employee is in their life cycle is where you probably want to invest. So for example, investing at that frontline leader position, that first-time manager, what they are learning is probably some basic foundations to what it takes to be a great manager. Things like communication, things like delegation or accountability. So what we're teaching, right, is very important for that person at their moment in their employee life cycle. We want that program, though, to be the highest quality. It's not about taking a program and smattering it across your first-time leaders. Quality program at that defining moment. Take another example, a strategic leader who is coming into the organization or has just been promoted into an enterprise level leader. We might want to offer them, for example, a first 100 days coaching program. Why? Because they need to focus on how to become a more effective enterprise or strategic leader versus a mid-level leader that focuses on communication. So I see it's Elizabeth. Thank you so much. So Elizabeth, it's focusing on, if I could make this clear in a single statement here, looking at your employee life cycle, defining what moments should I be investing in, what's most important to build resilience, grabbing that and saying, what are the skills that are necessary at that moment, and then bringing a very quality, holistic development program to that individual. I did that pretty good. Impressed myself. All right, we are almost at time. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go. If there are any other questions I didn't address, Megan, why don't I take those down and I will address those individually. But thank you so much for your time today. I greatly appreciate it. Again, the recording will be coming to you as well as the PowerPoints and the full research report for you to dive further into our research. Thank you very much and have a beautiful afternoon.